This is MICI Magazine with a MICI Live interview with JD and Jad from Hillsong United. We have JD and Jad from Hillsong United with us speaking about Let Hope Rise, the movie made by Hollywood about Hillsong United and the Church of Hillsong Australia. Guys, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Listen, Let Hope Rise has been described by some as a theatre worship experience. How would you describe it?
It's just a story of a local church, really, that is filled with individuals that, like ourselves, who happen to be involved in just really what we're passionate about is our relationship with God and wanting to encourage other people in that. So I think what we're excited about this movie is that people can go along and really understand that we're pretty ordinary people because we pull the curtains back, people come into our homes, and but really our lives are a testimony to just serving God and building His church, and you know what He can do with a surrendered life like that is really exciting. So we hope people are encouraged by that.
That's what we'll get to a little bit later about, you know, the behind the scenes that we've seen through this film. But take us back to the moment that you found out that Hollywood wanted to create a film about United. What was your reaction? How did you respond to that news?
Well, we kind of thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
We were like, that's amazing. Is it going to be a comedy? Who's going to play JD? You know, we were talking about like Russell Brand might have to play JD.
Hilarious.
But we didn't really take it seriously. But the story goes that there's a Christian guy who's kind of involved with marketing films in Hollywood, and he brought a non-Christian producer along to an event we did in the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles, and the guy was kind of really impacted by the night, and his takeaway was people need to experience what I just experienced. Now we obviously know that he's talking about the presence of God. He didn't quite know what that was at the time. He just thought it was a band from Australia. So he said, we got to make a movie about these guys, and that's kind of how it came about. I remember the first day we met the director and the producers and the director of photography, and we all thought as soon as they kind of meet us, they'll be like, oh no, we don't really want to make this film anymore. but it was kind of cool, and it was really kind of weird getting used to the cameras following you around all day.
Well, that was one aspect of it. I think, I've seen the film at a screening recently, and I have to admit, I laughed, I cried, I worshipped, I did all of those things. And look, as an Australian, and this might sound really weird, but I'm really proud of you guys because I felt that the film actually will really help people realise that there's so much sacrifice that goes into what you do in creating an atmosphere of worship. And I think the film really communicates that well. How was it for you, though, watching your story being told from someone else's perspective?
Yeah, it was, to be honest, it was a very scary process, but we were kept getting reassured by the producers and the director that they really wanted to tell the real story. And so what I love is the end result actually is a really authentic snapshot and picture into our lives. And so personally, watching back, looking at anything that I'm in, like I think anyone ever looking at themselves on a screen or hearing themselves, speak or sing, can be a bit embarrassing. But really watching all my friends and family, like you said, I'm actually really proud of what God is doing through everyone's lives. So it's a sense of, we're really excited and proud of what the end product has become.
Yeah, it is. It really tells a beautiful story, and I'm, so excited for people to be able to go to cinemas and see this in Australia. But listen, guys, what were your favourite moments from the film? What are you most pleased about watching it back?
Well, I think for me, one of my favourite parts is we kind of all get together in a studio in Sydney, and we're trying to kind of, it's the first few steps of writing an album, and we kind of all sit down and we played through a few ideas, and to be perfectly honest with you, it was quite horrendous. Like, we weren't playing well together. The ideas just weren't kind of firing, and then Joel kind of sat us all down and said, "I've been reading the Beatitudes, and I want us to focus around it, and I feel like this is a great place to start for us." And I mean, the story of the Beatitudes became kind of the story of the project, Empires. That's actually kind of my favorite part because it kind of journeys from when we kind of first came around that passage of scripture to the point where we sang a song like Empires at the at the Forum, and and it was really kind of satisfying for me to be reminded of kind of the process, not only the creative process, but the kind of the spiritual journey that goes into a project.
Yeah. I loved that scene too, because I think as an outsider, somebody that sees you guys worshipping week in, week out, or even online, and the way that many people can get involved in watching Hillsong these days through the channel and things like that, it's great to be able to connect on those other levels. So Jad, you described United in the movie. You described United as one of the biggest bands the world's never heard of. And how weird is it for you then, being on tour, being so well known, yet coming home, life's just normal? How do you bring that back to just being part of a bigger team, working in your local church?
Yeah, well, I mean, that comment was obviously, for me, that was about Australia. That was more about Australia than it was anywhere else. And I guess the context was that my neighbours had no idea, like what I'd done the night before and been a part of, and kind of they didn't care either. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And so, but I do actually love the fact that we get to come home and be part of a bigger team. It does actually help keep your feet on the ground. It does help lend perspective to kind of what you're a part of, which is, I think when you realise that you're a part of something far bigger than yourself, I think it kind of breeds a really healthy perspective. And for us, we kind of we always want to be kind of be able to come home and just slot back into serving in church, because I feel like serving in church and being a part of a local church is actually what afforded us the platform that we have now, and I never want to forget that. That's good.
Now, there's a scene that I remember when you, Jad, were arriving home from tour, and there's a scene with your wife mentioning that, it can be a hard time when you're away raising children solo, and then I see your little boy running up to you and giving you the biggest hug. Do those moments ever make you question what you're called to?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. Like, and I think I say in the film that if my wife came to me and said, you know what, I think I can't do it anymore, then it'd actually be easy for me to call it a day, because there is definitely a sacrifice, and to be honest, you have to count it at the beginning of every year. We kind of sit down and go, are we going to do this? Are we doing this again?
Yeah.
And we make the decision together, and the cool thing about it is that we get to do this thing, and it's not me going out and doing my United thing. It's us as a family being a part of something kind of that we see as being really significant, and so and kind of really powerful, and something that God's hand, we believe God's hand is on. And so we do it as a family, and obviously my wife pays more heavily than I do, but it is a sacrifice, and but we do believe we're part of something kind of really significant.
Absolutely. And I loved that perspective from your wives. I think it was, as a wife, it was beautiful to see that they really do feel included in that journey, and that they are really well taken care of as well. They're, together, they're in this together with yourselves, but they're in it together when you guys are on tour. They are a great support for one another. So that was beautiful. JD, we got to see inside your family story as well, and at the time of filming you were living with your in-laws, so you can say for your own home. We all know Sydney prices are ridiculous. I think a lot of people were expecting that, being a global band with countless #1 songs and albums across both secular and Christian charts, that you'd be living the life of luxury. And how surreal is it on one hand to be famous and so well known, but then still be saving for a family home in that situation, which my husband and I can absolutely relate to, by the way. We were in a season like that ourselves when, God calls you to build something. There's that sacrifice involved. But how do you find that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny, and I think we see it for what it is, and any of the fame and recognition that comes along with what we do, we're very well aware that it's not because of who we are, but, what we're a part of. And so I think just knowing that, growing up in church, we've got a really great culture about keeping the main thing, and it's not about trying to get attention on us. Any bit of attention that we get, we want to and use to point people towards Jesus. But there's obviously that reality, and I joke about it in the film, because I would assume that most people would be very surprised that, we don't live these luxurious lives. I will say that we're very blessed, and don't want to complain, but it is, it is real, and we're not about making money. We're about building the church, and so there is other sacrifices that come along the way. And I guess my prayer and hope that out of that scene and that story is that people would be encouraged to just keep doing, what it is that God's calling them to do, and knowing that He will provide.
That's right. It brings perspective, doesn't it? That eternal perspective back into the fore. Guys, during filming there were some really intense moments where we see Joel particularly struggling, and, well, I won't say struggling, I'll say labouring to make sure every lyric is just right. He describes the importance, though, of making sure the lyrics are just right, because what you guys are bringing are more than song. They're opportunities for people to connect to God. Do you feel that responsibility every time you step on stage?
Absolutely. And I know, we talk about it with Joel a lot. When you've been given a platform, like when God gives you a platform to use, you want to make sure that you do everything kind of within your kind of diligence to honour it and to take it seriously. And I feel like, with what God has given us we want to make sure that what we're saying really means something, that it lines up with Scripture, that it lines up with what we believe, and that people actually can identify with it because it is so close to Scripture, and people can use it to draw near to God, and people can use it in their personal ministry. People can use it to kind of gain encouragement, find hope and purpose. And so we see it as a real responsibility, one that we'll never take lightly.
Listen, it's been so great chatting to you guys today. I've just got a couple more questions. Australians can be a funny bunch when it comes to success and celebrating others making strides in any area. What has the reception been like around the world to the film, and what do you hope Aussies seeing the film can take away from Let Hope Rise?
Yeah, haters are going to hate, and people have their own opinions. I think, though, and I'm sure there's people that haven't liked it, but the overwhelming response has been really positive, and I think that comes down to hopefully the authenticity that we tried throughout the whole process to not do anything in the film that we wouldn't naturally do in day-to-day lives and in what we do with the music and the band. Traditionally the Australian media has, I guess it's that, maybe it's the tall poppy syndrome, or maybe it's just a lack of, not understanding some of the facts and some of the rumours that come along the years of Hillsong Church. And that's what I think we love about the film, is there is that element where we do draw back the curtain and people can make up their own mind and make up their own decision. But we believe and are hoping that it is starting to change, and we have had a great response, and really we want to impact lives. We want people to be encouraged. It's not about putting on a show of Hillsong Church or Hillsong United. It's about, in the title, Let Hope Rise. So in a world that's full of, bad stories and negative, news and things that can be happening in the world, we also believe that we have a hope, and that hope is for everyone. So really excited for people to leave the cinemas with their heads lifted that much higher.
Singers, songwriters, and now Hollywood movie stars JD and Jad from Hillsong United. Thank you.
Not quite.
Well, we want to thank you for your time today. We're believing that people will absolutely encounter the love of God even as they sit in cinemas around the world. So thanks so much, guys, and God bless. We have really appreciated your time today.
Thanks for having us.
All the best.